A few days ago, our friends came to visit us. We have known Bob and Maria for most of our married life. Maria worked with my wife Trina at a large, well-known travel agency. The company has offices in several states. Bob is the boss at the factory. I am an electrician and work at one of the local factories. I've been working there since I returned from the army about 8 years ago. The four of us were watching an old movie called Same Time, Next Year, which was about a man and woman who were lovers for many years. They were both married, but not to each other. They still loved each other and agreed to meet and be lovers every year at the same time for a week. For the rest of the year, they lived normal lives with their spouses and families. Our wives cried at the end of one of the meetings when the couple had to separate and return to their families. "What nonsense," I said. "They both cheat on their families, and you think it's so sad. They must be caught in the arms of their lovers and shot." "Andy, how can you say that? They were true lovers and only met once a year," Maria objected. I replied, "So you two think it's okay for me to have sex with my old girlfriend once a year as long as Trina doesn't find out?" Trina got angry. "You bastard, this is not about you and your old bitch friend Melissa. It's about people who are truly in love. I doubt you'll ever understand that." Bob realized that things were heating up. "Break, it's just a stupid movie. I don't think we should argue over a stupid movie." "Bob," I asked, "if that woman were your wife, would you say that she can cheat once a year? If I found Trina doing this, I would kick her out. And Trina, you had no right to mention Melissa just because she was my girlfriend before I met you. Damn, I didn't say anything about you and your old flame, Zach." "Listen, this is getting out of control. Let's just stop talking about the film," Maria said. "No," I said. "I want to know Bob's answer. What would you do, Bob, if Maria wanted to do the same thing as the woman in the movie?" "Listen, Andy, Maria won't do something like that. I won't answer the question based on some stupid assumption. Maria is too good a person to ever do this to our marriage," Bob replied. I happened to look at the girls, and for a moment something flashed between them. I couldn't say what it was at the time, but it made me feel cold. Maria stood up, sat on her husband's lap, and kissed him. It seems all was well in their happy minds. As for Trina, she didn't smile at me. She stood up and offered everyone another drink. I turned off the movie, and all four of us went into the kitchen to play cards. We usually played men against women. I have to admit that this got me thinking. I thought a lot in the following days. When I finished school, I enlisted in the Army. I signed a contract for 3 years, of which 2 years had to be abroad. I went to our prom with my girlfriend Melissa. I truly believed that I loved her. She was my first love and the first woman I made love to. I always thought we were a great couple and would be together forever. I think I was too naive at the time. The last time we made love was a week before I was supposed to go to work. She didn't come to say goodbye to me because she had another ball. Her parents said she could go to prom with me if she went to another prom, or rather a dance with Eric. He was a bit of a nerd and went to college. There was some event there, and Eric invited Melissa to go with him. Melissa made the mistake of mentioning this to her mother. Do not misunderstand me. I had nothing against Eric, except that he wanted to date my girlfriend. Unfortunately, his mother and Melissa's mother worked together and tried to set them up. It hurt knowing that Melissa would be dating Eric, but she said her mother insisted on it, and she promised me she wouldn't even kiss him. I had been abroad for about 4 months when I received a letter from my sister saying that Melissa was pregnant. I could not believe it. Melissa has been writing to me since I left for basic training. Why didn't she ever mention this? Of course she knew, especially if my sister Jen knew. The only answer was that Eric impregnated her. I was furious. I wrote her a letter calling her every dirty name I could think of. I was fighting in a war, and my girlfriend, soon-to-be ex-girlfriend, was cheating behind my back and didn't even have the decency to tell me she was pregnant. I never wrote to her again after sending that letter. I told her not to waste time writing letters to me because it was over between us, and I would throw her letters in the trash without reading them. I told her that I hope she, Her illegitimate child and Eric will be happy together. I received a letter from her, but I tore it up and threw it in the trash. I never heard from her again while I was abroad. The sisters said Mel and Eric got married shortly before the baby was born. They lived at Eric's parents' house, and Eric took night classes at college to finish his degree. After I found out I was pregnant, I became a hero. I wasn't brave, I was stupid. I didn't care if they killed me. I took to the battlefield like some kind of superhero, saving the lives of many homeless children. I didn't care about myself. I thought I would return home in a coffin. I did not care. I was just a stupid soldier who thought his life was over. I couldn't believe it when my service ended. Not only was I alive, but I also received several awards for bravery. When I returned home, the city held a holiday in my honor. I met a lot of friends and old schoolmates. Everyone shook my hands and smiled. I wondered if a certain woman would show up. I saw her in the crowd with a baby stroller and her husband. She turned around and left without talking to me. I really didn't expect this because I wrote her a letter calling her a cheater and a bitch. It's funny how our emotions take over when we're angry. Now I was sad after seeing her, but I still hated what she did to us. There was a lot of dancing at the celebration. I saw an old classmate sitting there and asked her to dance. It was Trina, one of the most beautiful girls in our class. At the time, she was a little out of my league and was dating an athlete from school. He was supposedly every woman's dream. At least that's what they said at school. His name was Zach Carter, the American football team's quarterback, and he was the top prospect. I heard that he moved to another state after graduating from high school. Trina attended local college and earned a business degree before working for a large travel agency. Last I heard, Zach lived in another state. It seems he broke up with Trina and was dating some rich woman whom he later married. As we danced, Trina and I reminisced about old times. We soon realized that we had both been abandoned by previous lovers, and we began dating. I must say that we both experienced disappointment in love. 6 months later, we got married. I know it sounds stupid, but when people experience disappointment, they behave differently. I got a job at one of the local factories and began studying to become an electrician. Trina and I actually got along well. I think we found respect for each other and liked the same things. You could say we loved each other, and in a way we did. We had great sex. She wasn't afraid to try different things. I was a little worried about where she learned all this from. I asked her one day, and she laughed and pulled out a bunch of women's magazines that covered many of the things we tried. Our real feelings were probably more like friendship than love, but it was a better relationship than many people we knew. Life was pleasant, and we went to visit various friends. One day, while we were with Bob and Maria, Trina asked me if I wanted to go to a conference that her travel agency was putting on. Andy, every 2 years our travel agency holds a conference in a different state where we have offices. Last time it was here in Ohio, and this time in Florida. Usually this is the first or second week of May. We can take our spouses with us, although these are just meetings and presentations of new tourist destinations and the like. Do you want to go? Trina asked. Honey, I don't want to waste my vacation week in May attending meetings. Are any of your colleagues coming so you can go with them? I'm going, said Maria. Bob can't take a vacation, and he's not interested anyway. Usually, Trina, Barb, and I, another girl from the office, go together. Sounds good to me. This will give me a week to miss you before you return, I replied. Trina smiled slightly, and she and Maria went into the women's room. I've never understood why women can't go to the toilet alone. After they left, Bob and I talked about how lucky we were to not have to go to such a boring conference. When Trina returned from the conference, we made love. It was one of the best sexual experiences since our wedding. As a result, Trina became pregnant. I was a very happy father. My little girl was born just in time for Valentine's Day. I couldn't have gotten a better gift for Valentine's Day. Now we were a family and life really did get better. Trina took 3 months off after giving birth. My sister Jen offered to babysit, which was ideal. Little Renee was my pride and joy. After work, I loved holding my little girl and watching her play. The only thing that disturbed my idol was quarrels with Trina. For some reason, she always remembered Melissa. Of course, I mentioned Zach in response. It was really stupid to fight over people who were no longer a part of our lives, but when we get angry, we tend to remember the past. One day, when I got home before Trina, I asked Jen if she had seen Melissa. Sometimes I see her at the grocery store. She has the sweetest little girl she named Andrea. I know you don't want me to talk about her, but she loves her daughter, even though she doesn't seem happy. I don't know why, Jen said. Well, next time you see her, tell her I have a daughter too. That's rude, Andy. I won't tell her that. A few minutes later, Trina arrived, and we had to change the subject. For some reason, I can't just forget Melissa. Maybe because deep down I still cared about her. Maybe because she was my first love. I wonder if other people feel the same way about their first love. Do we ever forget them? Has Trina forgotten Zach? There's always something to think about when it comes to first love. Time flew by, and it was time for Trina to go to the next conference. I really didn't want to go, and neither did Bob. Plus, I had a 2-year-old daughter to take care of, or at least that's how I explained it to Trina. She and Maria went with their friend. When Trina came back, we had great sex again. I've been thinking about sending her to conferences more often. Every time she came back, the sex was the best. Again, a couple of months later, she discovered that she was pregnant. 7 months later, our second daughter was born. We named her Ashley. Valentine's Day was becoming a pretty good day in our house. Life went on as usual, and we lived an ordinary life and quarreled. It's funny, but the longer we were married, the less we had in common. I have often thought that we would have gotten divorced if it weren't for my 2 sweet daughters, Renee and Ashley. Finally, I received my master electrician certificate. This meant more work, but also more money. I usually spend my free time with girls. I understood that they would soon grow up. I wanted to spend as much time with them as possible. Trina and I got along, but it didn't feel like love. I know I'm repeating this, but it felt like we were just doing duty. It seems like most of my friends had similar marriages. We all tried to make a good impression, but behind closed doors, we were more like 2 strangers living in the same house. I tried to joke and have fun with Trina several times, but it usually ended in some kind of fight. When she was planning her next conference, I told her I would go with her. I thought it might strengthen our marriage if I showed more interest in her work. At first, she seemed annoyed that I was going, but after a couple of days, she softened up. A few days later, Bob called me and asked if I wanted to go fishing with him in Canada while the girls were at a conference. I tried to explain to him that I promised Trina that I would go with her. Believe me, Bob, I would much rather go fishing than go to a tourism conference. Just tell Trina. I'm sure she will understand. I already booked the cabin, otherwise I would have changed the date. I go fishing every time Maria goes to a conference. One of the guys couldn't go this year, and we have space. It was Maria who suggested that I ask you. Please at least mention this to Trina, Bob replied. I was sitting on the floor playing with the girls when Trina came home. The first thing she did was talk about fishing. I think Maria mentioned this to her. Andy, she said, I know about fishing in Canada. I think you should go. Really, Trina? I promised you that I would go to the conference with you. Listen, Andy, this is your first vacation since you graduated and became an electrician. You deserve it, and I don't want to take that rest away from you and force you to sit through meetings. Call Bob and tell him to leave you a seat in the car. She smiled at me. I couldn't believe how kind she was. I told her that I would be home in time for our regular sex when she returned from her trip. I quickly got up and called Bob. I also slept with Trina that night. Maybe she really was changing. The fishing trip was great. It was exactly what I needed to unwind for the better part of the week. My sister looked after the children while we were both away. I asked her to stay one night so Trina and I could have our sexy night. Jen just laughed and said she would see me the next day. I pushed Trina onto the bed and made love to her well. It was more of a storm of passion within minutes of her coming home. I remember telling her that we would try to make a boy that night. I don't remember how many times we did this that night, but it led to our third pregnancy. Andrew Jr. was born the following February. All three of our children were born within 1 day of each other in February. As soon as Andrew Jr. was born, I had a vasectomy. I decided we had enough kids and told Trina that 3 kids was enough and that I wasn't going to use condoms. She didn't look happy or sad about it. Of course, why would she be? She probably thought that 3 children was enough too. About a year after Andrew was born, Jen told me that Melissa wanted to talk to me alone. About what, Jen? What could she possibly want after all these years? I don't know. She filed for divorce from Eric, but I don't know if that has anything to do with it. She seems scared. I think she needs to talk to you. Do you understand that Trina will be very angry if I talk to Melissa? She never loved her. I think I've talked about her too much in the past. I'd be mad at myself if I found out that Trina was talking to Zach. Hell, I don't even know where he lives. Listen, Andy, the last thing I want is to interfere with your marriage. Maybe you can call her from my house or even meet her here once. We're not talking about sex, just conversation. I've always loved her, and I know she wouldn't ask to see me if it wasn't really important. The next day, I actually went to Jen's to meet Melissa. I felt wrong just going there. Part of me said to go home, and another part of me wanted to see Mel again. Now I was struggling in my own mind whether I was doing the right thing. I stopped in front of Jen's house and sat for a minute, trying to collect my thoughts and wondering what to say. I felt like a nervous child as I got out of the car and walked to the door. I rang the doorbell. Any other time I would have just walked in, but today was different. Jen came to the door and asked why I rang the bell. I didn't know what to answer when I walked in. The tension could have been cut with a knife when I saw Melissa standing in Jen's kitchen, just as beautiful as I remembered. She started crying and covered her face with her hands. I didn't know what to do. I didn't expect to see her crying. I walked up to her and took her hands, seeing tears streaming down her face. She spoke first. "I'm so sorry, Andy. I'm so sorry," she said over and over again. She was shaking when I hugged her to calm her down. I didn't know why she acted this way, but it touched me. 10 years ago, I would have been glad to see her cry after what she did to me, but now everything was different. Perhaps time really does help heal old wounds. I held her in my arms and smelled the same Melissa I remembered. "It's okay, Mel. It was 10 years ago. We both moved on with our lives," I said. "No, you don't understand. I promised Eric that I would never see you again. That was our agreement, but I had to break it. I had to break it for Andrea, my little girl," Mel replied. "You're right, Mel. I don't understand. What are you trying to say?" Mel calmed down a bit and Jen brought her a cup of tea. The three of us were sitting at the table when Jen suggested we go into another room and leave Mel and me alone. "No, please stay, Jen. I think you need to hear this too. Andrea, my little girl, has severe jaundice due to liver failure. She needs a liver transplant if a suitable donor is found. The doctor said that family members are the best donors, and adults should only give part of their liver. Over time, it will grow back. My problem is that I don't qualify, and we don't have any other family members that qualify." "What about Eric?" Jen asked. "Has he been tested? What about his family members?" Mel looked at me and said, "Eric is not Andrea's father. That's you, Andy." She started crying again. I was stunned. I had so many questions and didn't know where to start. "What?" I asked. "Why didn't you ever tell me it was my baby? God, Mel, I can't believe you hid this. When you found out I was pregnant, you didn't give me a chance to explain. You wrote me a letter calling me a bitch and a cheater, among other things. You said you don't want to see me anymore. I wrote you a letter with an explanation, but you never responded. Oh God, I was so angry when I received this letter that I threw it away. I can't believe I was so stupid. I've been angry at you all these years. Why did you marry Eric? Did he know that Andrea might not be his child?" Mel smiled slightly. "You're so crazy. This is one of the qualities that I have always loved about you. Of course, Eric knew that Andrea was not his child. We didn't have sex before marriage. I told him that you are the father and that you want nothing more to do with me. This is what you told me. Eric really took care of me. He is truly a wonderful person, but he also has pride. He agreed to marry me on the condition that I tell everyone that he is the father of my child. To be honest, I didn't know what to do. You wanted nothing more to do with me, and I was 18 years old. Eric and I got married, but I had to promise that I would never see you again and let everyone believe that Eric was Andrea's father. I still loved you, and Eric knew it. He is a good person, and we got along until a couple of months ago when Andrea was diagnosed with a liver problem. You are her last hope. I had to choose whether to tell you the truth. Of course, Eric said that if I tell you that Andrea is your daughter, we won't be able to stay married anymore because his family and friends will find out the truth. I had no choice. My child's life comes first. Are you ready to get tested to become a possible donor? I saw tears of hope in her eyes. This was not a small decision. My marriage was most likely in jeopardy as well. I didn't know how Trina would react to me giving part of my liver to Mel's baby. I knew I had to make the right choice, no matter the circumstances or consequences. Mel, of course, I will get tested to save Andrea's life. Tell the doctor to make an appointment for me, and I will be there. All three of us had tears in our eyes. Mel came over and hugged me. She whispered in my ear, "I love you so much, always have and always will." Mel immediately picked up the phone and called the hospital to schedule me for testing. My appointment was scheduled for Monday. I figured I'd have a day or so to break the news to Trina. I think I was really between a rock and a hard place. I believed Mel when she said Andrea was my daughter. When I get tested, I will know for sure, and she has nothing to gain and much to lose by lying to me. I hugged Jen and Mel and headed home to a very confused man. When I found out that Andrea was my daughter, I was confused. I had a child who was 10 years old, and I had never even seen her. The woman I've always loved is back in my life. I had a wife at home who despised my ex-girlfriend, and I had 3 other children at home. If I hadn't been so young, I probably would have had a heart attack. I was playing with the children when Trina came home. It was difficult to tell what mood she was in because it changed so often. I decided to wait a while before talking to her. I knew she was about to blow a head gasket, and I didn't want the kids to see it. They've seen their mother, and I fight too many times already. On Sunday, I took the children to my mother. I told Trina that I would be back in a few minutes and that I needed to discuss something with her. When I returned, she bumped into me. "What's so damn important that we can't talk in front of the kids?" Trina asked. "I talked to Melissa yesterday, and you and I have a lot to discuss." Trina interrupted me. "A what? You went and saw her. What for? Does she miss a home and wants you to help her?" "That's enough, Trina. This is really serious, and I need to talk to you about it. Mel's daughter has jaundice and needs a liver transplant, or she will die." "What does this have to do with us? I'm sorry for the girl, but there's nothing we can do. Why did she need to tell you about this?" Trina seemed a little more concerned, but I knew she was wondering why Mel called me. Mel said the girl needs part of an adult liver to survive, and a family member has the best chance of a match. "Don't tell me she says you're the father of the child. Do you believe her?" "Yes, she called me to tell me that I was the father of a little girl. Honestly, Trina, I never knew. The girl needs a transplant, and I'm going to see if I can help her. I have an appointment to see if I can fit in tomorrow." "What about our family? Have you thought about them? What if something goes wrong, or you need time to recover? Have you thought about us?" Trina looked more angry than worried. She had a right to be angry. It's just been forced upon us, but the fact remains that Andrea needs help to survive. Look, knowing that I could save a little girl's life, and the fact that she could very well be my daughter, I have no choice. I have to do this, no matter what you say. "You bastard, you put your girlfriend and her daughter before your family. You are a poor excuse for a man and a father. I'll pretend you said it out of anger. If our children needed a transplant, I would be there for them, and you know it. Tomorrow's tests will find out if Mella's little girl is my daughter, and if she is, I will do everything I can to save her. I will be in her life too, whether you like it or not. I just hope you can stop your hatred and try to understand. For the record, Andrew, I'm against it. You may love her, but she is not related to me, and I don't care what happens to her. I have my own children to worry about, and if she survives, I don't want you to bring her into my house. You're a nasty bitch. I can't believe what I've ever seen in you. I'm going to help this little girl if I can. Let's see what happens after this. Are you worried about the little girl or her mother? You never got over her, did you? You're pathetic, Andrew, very pathetic. Go sleep with your old girlfriend and give your liver to her daughter. Maybe she'll take you back after I kick your ass. I will watch you and collect evidence. Better watch your step. I took the children and brought them home. Trina came in later and barely spoke to me. I knew that from that moment on life would become hell. I got tested and was told to wait about an hour while they ran the tests. I entered the room to see Andrea. Mel was sitting there talking to her little girl. Andrea was so beautiful. She really looked a lot like her mother. She was 10, but tiny due to liver problems. She looked no older than my 6-year-old daughter, Renee. I walked up to the bed, and it scared Mel a little. She quickly turned around and saw me standing there. She had the most beautiful smile on her face. "Thank you for coming," she said. I looked at Andrea. "You are my guardian angel?" she asked me. "Mom said my guardian angel will be here today to help me get what I need. Are you him?" I smiled at her. "I'm not exactly an angel, but I'm here and I hope I can give you what you need. I'll find out in just a few minutes." "You're Andy, aren't you? Mom said I was named after you. Did you know that? I have to tell you that my mom and I talk all the time. She and I have secrets. When I get better, I will share them with you. Mom said I could. This disease may make me look young, but I am 10 years old and quite smart. Do you have any other children?" The way she said it made me think. Did she know the truth about me? She was talking about other children, wasn't she? She spoke as if she were very smart, but her body looked so fragile. God, I hope I'm perfect for her. "Yes, dear, I have 3 children at home, all younger than you. When you get better, I will bring them to you." "It would be great. I like kids. I don't have any brothers or sisters to play with, so maybe I could borrow yours," she smiled. I could tell she was feeling weak and had these tubes coming out of her. "Darling, close your eyes and rest a little. You need to gain strength. I'll keep Andy company," Mel said. "I bet you will, Mommy," Andrea said, smiling and dozing off. "Does she really know who I am, Mel? How much does she really know?" I asked. Mal smiled. "It was so nice to see. Andrea and I have secrets, just like she told you. She'll tell you what they are when she gets better. Until then, you'll just have to guess." Mel walked me back to the lab. We were asked to wait in the doctor's office. He wanted to talk to us. "Mr. Connors, you are a very good match for Andrea. The ideal match would be a child's liver, but we can take part of your liver and implant it into a girl." "Doctor, she is my daughter. Now I know it. I would like you to call her my daughter." The doctor smiled. "Well, Mr. Connors, your daughter will have a chance at a full recovery. It may take a couple of months for her body to fully accept the implant, but she is young and should recover quickly." "What about me, Doc? What will I have to go through?" "You will be placed under water while we remove part of your liver. When you wake up, you'll feel like you've just been run over by a truck. If all goes well, you will need bed rest for a month and will not be able to return to work for at least 6 weeks. Over the next year, your body will recover." "Are you kidding me, doctor?" "No, you wanted to know the truth, and I consider it necessary to tell it to you. Your daughter is very lucky to have you in her life. Honestly, I don't think she would have lasted another month. Now, for the bad news." "Bad news? Are you saying that what you just said was good news?" The doctor laughed. "Yes, that was good news. The bad news is that we need to operate as soon as possible. I was hoping you could come back tomorrow morning for surgery. Tomorrow, doctor, maybe we can start on Wednesday. I need to go to work tomorrow and take sick leave. Please give me all the necessary documents, especially if I'm going to be away for a long time. I agree Wednesday. My secretary will prepare all the necessary documents for you. See you Wednesday, Mr. Connors. Just call me Andy, doctor. Looks like we'll have to see each other often. Mel took my arm as we returned to Andrea's room. She had tears in her eyes, but they were tears of joy. I don't know what to say, Andy. You are putting your life on hold for a few months for my daughter. I do this for my daughter, too. I won't be able to live with myself if I don't help her. As for you and me, Mel, I don't know what's going to happen next. I am married and will never cheat on my wife. I've always loved you, but we have our own lives now. No matter what happens, I want to remain your friend, and I want Andrea to be a part of my life. I leaned over the bed and kissed little Andrea on the forehead. Sleep tight, my beautiful daughter. Daddy loves you. Tears came to my eyes as I left the hospital. After leaving the hospital, I stopped by work to tell my boss what was going on. He said he was surprised. He didn't know that any of my children were sick. I didn't explain, but thanked him for his help with paperwork and insurance. He said my job would be waiting for me when the doctor said I could go back. When I returned home, Trina was waiting for me. Well, is this your child? Yes, Andrea is my daughter. The operation is scheduled for Wednesday. I have already taken out insurance and talked to my boss. I will be out for at least 6 weeks, but will receive sick pay. So you're really going to do it. What about your children? Are you going to tell them about your other daughter? Our children are 2, 4, and 6 years old. If I told them I could save another girl, they would say I was doing the right thing. They know that I will always be with them. I'll talk to them tonight so they know why they won't be seeing me for a while. Jen said she'll help you until I get home. Oh yes, your great sister Jen will be here. You know, sometimes she can be a pain in the... Don't say that. Don't be so stupid as to talk bad about my sister either. She is like a second mother to our children, and you know it. If you don't want her help, just call her and tell her what a pain in your ass she is. I'm sure she'll leave you alone. Trina fell silent and went into another room. I called the girls over to talk to them. Little Andy came, but he was too young to understand what we were talking about. I explained to the children that they had an older sister from another mother and that she was very sick. I tried to explain to them what was happening. The girls were almost crying. Save her, Dad. You should help her if you can, Renee said. I'll help, honey. I won't be home for a few days until I get better. I will call you and talk to you every day until I get back. When your sister gets better, I will bring you to her. Aunt Jen will help take care of you while I'm gone. I want you to be good for her and Mom, okay? We'll be good, Dad, we promise. On Wednesday, I went to the hospital. I took a moment to visit Andrea before heading into surgery. She was nervous, but smiling. Hi, Andy. Glad you came. I can't cope without you. I think she had a little bit of my personality. She was a sweet and caring girl. I only knew her for a few days, but I was already proud of her. I turned around and Mel was standing there, all nervous. Everything will be fine, Mel. Andrea is ready, and so am I. She leaned over and kissed me. I mean a real, loving kiss. Thank you, Andy. I will never forget what you did for our daughter. I looked at Andrea and I know that she heard what her mother just said. She just smiled at me as if to say, "Thank you, Dad." I went to my room and prepared for the operation. When I woke up after surgery, I remembered what the doctor said about how I would feel. He didn't lie. I felt terrible. The nurse came in and smiled at me as she ran her little tests. I told her how I was feeling, and she increased the painkiller. I looked around the room, but there was no one. I knew that Mel would be with her daughter, but I hoped that Trina would change her mind and come to me. I was sleeping, and when I woke up, I heard voices. My sister Jen and Mel were talking. "Hello, little brother. How do you feel? You look like shit. She laughed. We always made fun of each other. She was as good a sister as you could imagine. She was married, but had no children. I do not know why. We just didn't talk about it. Jen, don't make me laugh. It hurts like hell. How did everything go? Will Andrea be okay? Mel replied. It's too early to say anything, but the doctor is very optimistic. He said the surgery went well, and now we need to pray that her body will accept the liver. Her body will accept my liver. I don't give away my organs to just anyone. I started laughing. Oh, that hurts. I can't even laugh without pain. Andy, I will forever be grateful to you for what you did. You saved my daughter's life. To our daughter. She's still my daughter, even if we're not married. I want to see her regularly. My kids can't wait to meet her big sister. What about Trina? You know, I tried to talk to her several times over the years, but she always walked away. I just wanted to be friends, but she said, no, no way. I hope Andrea can be close to your other children. Trina never told me she talked to you ever. As for Andrea, I will bring my children to her. In fact, they told me they couldn't wait to see her and also told me to make her healthy. I promised them I would do my best. The three of us talked for a while, and the doctor came in to see me. Jen and Mel said they would see me later. I spoke with the doctor, and he updated me on my and Andrea's health status. Even though I felt terrible, I called home to talk to the kids. Trina answered the phone and asked how I was feeling. Okay, I think. I just called to say hi to the kids. I really didn't want to talk much right now, especially with Trina. Well, I'll probably come see you after work tomorrow. Today was too busy to leave, Trina said. She handed the phone to the children, and they all spoke at the same time on different phones. I told them that I would talk to them the next day, but I just wanted to let them know that I was okay and that I missed them. How's the girl, Dad? Is she feeling better? Renee asked. As far as I know, she is getting better. I need to rest now, girls. Give Andy a kiss for me, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. I love you all very much and miss you. We love you too, Dad. Bye. The next day, Trina actually came to see me. She asked how I was and how Andrea was. She didn't really seem bothered. It was more like she was asking because she felt she had to. She spent most of her time telling me about a special meeting she might have to attend in Chicago. It was supposed to be in a month or so I'd be out of the hospital and able to look after the kids. She said my sister Jen was with our kids now so she could come and visit me. Her visit left me wondering if she wanted to stay married to me. I had no specific reason to think so, but I had a feeling that she was hiding something. It wasn't a sixth sense, just a feeling. She kissed me lightly on the lips and said she would be back in a few days, then got up and left. A little later, Mel arrived, and the atmosphere in the room changed. I realized that I had married the wrong woman, but it was too late. I had made my choice, and now I had to do everything possible to save my marriage for the sake of my children. I called my kids every night and talked to them like I promised. It was so nice to hear them argue about who would talk to me. Even little Andy got his turn on the phone. At least his first words were, "Dad." The next few days passed without much of an event. Trina did come, and so did my sister Jen. Of course, Mel came all the time. She almost lived in the hospital, torn between Andrea and me. I knew that when I left the hospital I would miss her, but I had to try to make my marriage happy. A few more days passed, and I received several visits from work colleagues, and also, of course, my mother came to visit me. She said she was there when I was taken out of intensive care, but I was unconscious. My mom has been here every day since the surgery. She never talked much about it, just visited Andrea and said I did the right thing. I knew from the look on her face that she had accepted Andrea as her granddaughter. She didn't have to say it. This was evident in the way grandmothers talked about their grandchildren. I asked Mel about Erica and her upcoming divorce. He's moving to California. You know, he was always kind of a nerd, but a good nerd. He is a wonderful person, and I will miss him. We agreed to remain friends. He is interested in computers and said he found a job in Silicon Valley. He will be a good husband for the right woman someday. This woman is just not me. What do you do for a living, Mel? How do you plan to survive? Like I said, Eric is a computer genius. He set up my computer. I have a home business and do billing for several medical institutions. I choose my own hours of work. The main thing is to complete the work on time. Eric and I made an agreement where he leaves me the house and furniture. Of course, I will pay the mortgage. We have our own cars, so there are no problems here. We divided our savings after paying off our credit cards. Alimony is not provided. It would be wrong for him to pay for a child that is not his if we are not married. Tears welled up in her eyes out of respect for Eric. Later in the evening, Eric visited me. I was completely stunned. I didn't know what to say. I hope he didn't want to fight because he definitely would have won. Andy, I just came by to say thank you. Thank you? I don't understand. You saved Andrea's life. You will see that she is the sweetest girl and I will miss her. Tomorrow I'm leaving for California. I just talked to the doctors and Andrea's body seems to have accepted your liver. She's starting to return to her normal color. Eric, maybe you and Mel can work things out. I know she respects you. Andy, let's not deceive each other. If she loved me the way she loves you, I would happily stay with her. I played a supporting role for almost 10 years, hoping that she would forget you, but she never forgot and probably never will. We had a good marriage, but I want my wife to love me, not just respect me. Do you understand this? We don't fight and we do a lot of things together, but her heart belongs to you. I can't live like this anymore, especially since everyone now knows that Andrea is not my child by blood. So take care of my family. Do not worry about me. Computers are my first love, and I will be in Silicon Valley. Thank you again, old man, for giving Andrea a chance to live. You are a really good person. Eric, I'm so sorry. I really don't know what to say. What about Andrea? I know she will miss you. You're the only father she's ever known. I have to tell you that my relationship with Mel was based on respect. We decided from the beginning that my name would not appear on the birth certificate. In the father column, she indicated your name and said that you were abroad, so your signature was not required. I know Mel and Andrea have their own secrets. My guess is that she knows about you and Mel. I'm sure she'll miss me as much as I miss her. That's why she needs you in her life. She needs a father figure in her life. Why shouldn't he be her real father? Thanks again and take care of them. They both need you. Before I could say anything, Eric turned and left the room. I lay there and thought about how difficult my life had become. At home I have a wife and a so-so marriage with 3 wonderful children. On the other hand, I have an ex-girlfriend and daughter to whom I just donated part of my liver. Damn, not a good situation, I thought. It won't be long before I can return home. I was not allowed to lift anything heavier than 5 pounds. My girls understood this, but Andy knew nothing and wanted to be held. At the very least, he agreed to crawl in next to me and sit on the bed or sofa. My girls were like 2 little mothers taking care of me. Trina went to work every day, and when she came home, we were friendly to each other. Jen stopped by every day for a couple of hours to see if I needed anything. She was a huge help to me. I also talked to my mom daily to keep her updated on my condition. She took my 3 children every couple of days so I could rest. I was recovering well, but I didn't want to overexert myself. The first week I was home, I didn't call Mel directly. Jen would stop by the hospital or call Mel to see how Andrea was doing. She had to spend another week in the hospital. The doctor was surprised at how well she felt. Her complexion returned to normal and she was gaining weight. He was extremely optimistic about her condition. After Andrea was sent home to recover, my girls wanted to meet her. I still couldn't drive, so we all got in the van and Jen drove us to Mel's house. I wasn't sure if I should go there, but with Jen and the kids I thought it wouldn't be a problem. Mel's house was beautiful, well furnished and clean. I told the children that Andrea was sick, so they should be quiet. Mel smiled when she saw my children. She introduced herself to them and said they could call her Mel. She took the two girls to Andrea's room and introduced them to a smiling Andrea. I was surprised when I saw her. She was no longer jaundiced due to liver problems, but had a beautiful, clear complexion. "Hi," Andrea said. "I'm your older sister." "Well, older in age at least," she smiled, seeing that Renee was almost as tall as her. "Don't I have a little brother?" "Where is he?" Andrea asked. Jen came into the room holding little Andy in her arms. "Were you looking for him?" Jen answered. I couldn't believe what Andrea said. I know I will never forget this. Children sometimes say amazing things. "Hello, my sweet brother from another mom. I'm your big sister Andrea." Andy smiled and Jen sat him down on the bed, and he climbed in and sat next to his new big sister. I had tears in my eyes and couldn't help it, but I wasn't alone when I looked and saw Mel and Jen smiling too. Now, I knew that Andrea had been told that I was her biological father. We spent a couple of hours together, allowing the kids to enjoy time with each other. The kids were sad when we told them it was time to leave and that Andrea needed to rest. The girls said they wouldn't leave unless I promised they could come again. Of course, I told them that they would see each other often. When I left, I knew that tonight, when I told Trina that we were at Mel's, there would be a scandal. Trina had just walked through the door when the girls told her that they met their big sister today. At least Trina had the good sense not to start yelling at me until the kids were in bed. They called me all sorts of names. I tried to explain that nothing had happened and Jen was there with me. Of course, Trina accused me of Jen lying for me and covering up the affair. "Oh my God, Trina, why can't you believe that we can just be friends? I have never cheated on you, and I never will. My family is too important to me to just go and have an affair, and you accuse me of lying to you. Trust me, Jen will never cover up cheating, even from her brother. I told you that the kids wanted to meet each other, and they all had a good time. Why are you looking at everything so darkly? Everyone cheats on their spouses. I promise I won't cheat on you." She screamed a little more, and we went to bed. We still slept together, and I tried to cuddle up to Trina, but she wouldn't let me. Over time, I recovered well. The doctor told me to wait another month before returning to work. I called the factory and told them about this. Trina reminded me of her trip to Chicago a couple of weeks later. She was going to be gone for the whole week. I thought there would be no problem with childcare. Now I could lift Andy, so he was happy. The following week, our friends Bob and Maria came over to watch a movie and play cards. The girls chose the film Same Hour Next Year. This brings you to the current point in the story. As I mentioned at the beginning, something happened between Maria and Mel. I kept thinking about the look they exchanged with each other. I saw Trina whispering something to Maria before she and Bob left. I knew something was wrong, but I wasn't sure what. Things haven't been going well for us since I had my surgery. We haven't made love for a while. I thought I'd try again. When we got into bed, I put my hand on her lower abdomen and began to gently stroke her. Gentle circular movements. At first she pushed my hand away, but I kept trying. I slid my hand into her panties. "Are you ready for this?" she asked me. "You're going away for a week, and I don't want to wait for you to come back." "Part of me is ready," I replied. We had sex. The next morning she left for work, and I cleaned up the house, something I didn't often do. On her dresser where I noticed a package of birth control pills. When did she start taking them? I had a vasectomy over a year ago. I took them out and put them on the dresser. I opened them to see if she accepted them, and she did. I knew I was going to ask her about it tonight. God, I really hope she has a good reason to use birth control. Our marriage was already on the rocks. I looked around for anything else that might be a synonym, but found nothing. Neither of us used the computer much at home, and we had the same email address. There was nothing unusual there. I checked some of our phone bills, but they looked fine. Perhaps I was becoming paranoid. When Trina came home that evening, I told her about the birth control pill. "Why were you rummaging through my drawers? You had no right." "Is it true? I live here, just like you." "I wasn't spying. After the great sex we had last night, I thought I'd help clean up the house and was just putting your clothes away when I noticed the pills. Are you going to do this? Explain to me why you are taking them, knowing that I had a vasectomy. Bastard, you say you trust me, and then you give me the third degree. I'll tell you why I should take the pills. A few months ago, I was having problems with my period and went to the doctor. She suggested I take pills to help control the time of the month and lead a more regular lifestyle. Why didn't you tell me you had girl problems? What would you do? They would have prescribed me pills or advised me to go to the doctor, as I did. Besides, you were too worried about your other family at the time. I didn't want to bother you with my medical problem. This is inappropriate, Trina. You are my wife, and you mean a lot to me. I'm sorry I doubted you, but I got worried when I saw the pills. I was afraid. I was afraid that you might have an affair. I'm really sorry. Okay, now you know why I take the pills. It's not because I want them, but because my doctor prescribed them. I felt better after talking to her. I admit I still had my doubts, but I wanted to believe her. On Thursday evening, we had sex again. It was an almost instantaneous repeat of that day. On Friday morning, she was in a great mood. She kissed me and the kids goodbye before leaving for Chicago. I told her to hurry back so we could pick up where we left off. On Saturday, I took the kids to see Mel and Andrea. We spent this day together like one big happy family. I wish my life could be like that with Trina instead of fighting all the time. There were feelings between Mel and me, but we both knew better than to act on our feelings. On Sunday, I was watching TV with the children when there was a knock on the door. I answered and saw two old school friends. April and Mandy graduated from high school with Trina and me. They were gathering information for our next high school meeting. They wrote down as many facts as possible so they could print out a book and give it to all our former classmates. They got our address from Melissa. I forgot that she told me about this. I invited the women in and poured us all some tea. We did all the preliminary "how are you" and "what's new" questions. April spoke first. So, Andy, tell me what's new in your life and where you're working for our book. I told a few facts about joining the service and where I am currently working. I didn't know if Melissa told them about the surgery, so I didn't bring it up yet. Then they asked me about Trina. I told them about the travel agency Trina worked for. Mandy looked surprised. Oh my God, this is so weird. What's weird about working at a travel agency? I asked. It's just that her old boyfriend, Zach Carter, works at the same travel agency, but in Chicago. This is so strange. Both are old friends working in the same company, but in different states. How do you know that, Mandy? Have you talked to him? No, we spoke to his mother last week. She told us all about him and how rich and powerful he was. I remember in high school, all the girls wanted to date him. His mother says he is still in great shape and exercises every day. Can I get a copy of his profile? I think Trina would like to contact him. I didn't really need information for Trina. I wanted this for myself. I started to smell a rat, a very big rat. I had a feeling that Trina knew everything about Zach, but firsthand. Of course, Andy, I have an extra copy of his profile, but you'll probably have a hard time finding it. Why is this? According to Zach's mother, his wife is an Illinois state senator. You'll probably have to get tested just to see them, Mandy laughed. I laughed with them. I was burning inside. After receiving Zach's profile, I said goodbye to my old classmates. I thought I'd call Bob to talk and see if he knew anything about Zach. I gave it up. I didn't want to involve Maria just in case I needed information from her. Instead, I called Trina's room in Chicago. The phone rang 5 times before Trina answered. She seemed to be breathing a little heavily. Hello, she said. Well, hello, dear wife. How are you doing this fine morning? Why are you calling me, Andy? We said you should never call unless it's an emergency. Are the children okay? The kids are fine, but their father is a little angry. Why did you call, Andy? I don't have time for your stupid games. Today is Sunday. You don't have meetings on Sunday, do you? Oh, I forgot. You're having one of your secret meetings with Zach. Did I interrupt your damn session? I'm really sorry. Enough, Andy. I've heard enough of your nonsense. We'll talk about it when I get home next week. You stupid bitch. I can hear him in the background. Of course you can't have sex and talk at the same time. I'm going to hang up, Andy. We'll talk about this when I get home. Talk to me now, or I'll burn the damn house down and then come to Chicago and kill your damn boyfriend. I heard Zach whispering to Trina in the background. There was no reason for this stupid bastard to remain silent. You're going to tell your damn boyfriend to shut up, or I'm going to end this conversation with his wife, the senator. Please, Andy, don't call her. I heard her say something to Zach. Zach, get your hands off me. He damn well knows you're here. We can't hide it anymore. He'll call your wife if I don't talk to him now. How long have you been dating him? Since you don't want to answer me, I think it's been about 7 years. No wonder you come home and want to have sex. You couldn't get it out of your system. Or did you want to have a child with him and cover it up by having me? Please, Andy, I can't think right now. Please, let's talk later. Whose children am I raising, mine or your lover's? Tell me, whose children am I raising? Please, Andy, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Wow, honesty is not one of your qualities. Gee, I might have to sue my lover for 6 years of maintenance. I'm sure the senator will want to support my children. Please don't say that. How the hell am I supposed to talk to you? I was as honest with you as I could. I promised never to cheat on you and never did, although you accused me of our family life. You, on the other hand, have been having sex with that idiot behind my back for at least 7 years. How the hell else am I supposed to talk? Andy, I don't know what to say right now. We'll talk when I get home. The only thing we'll do when you get home is get a divorce and test the kids so your damn lover can claim the rights of the father. Until then, enjoy your sex, you pathetic, fucking, sneaky bitch. Just so you know, if the test shows that the children are mine, I will take them from you. No, you can't take my kids. I hung up. I needed more information. I called Bob. He returned from fishing. Usually he went for a couple of days. Bob, this is Andy. I lost Trina's room number and thought you might have Maria's number. He gave me the number and asked if there was a problem. No, it's okay. I just wanted to ask her something. Thanks, Bob. I called Maria's number and she answered. Hello. Maria, this is Andy. Andy, Trina isn't here right now. I can ask her to call you back. Enough of this crap, Maria. I know where she is, who she is with, and what she is doing. I do not know what you're talking about. I knew she was trying to show me off, but I didn't show off. In room 804, having sex with Zach Carter. Now answer a couple of questions, or I'll ask Bob. Are you trying to blackmail me? Blackmail? No, of course not. I just decided that if Trina cheated on me for 7 years and you covered it up, then you got your share too. Either you tell me everything I want to know, or I tell Bob about Trina and you explain to him why you hid it. What do you want to know, Andy? So, you cheated on Bob too. Did you have an old boyfriend? Please don't tell Bob. I did it the first 2 times and felt so guilty that I no longer shared a room with Trina. It was a big mistake, and I am truly sorry. Who was it, Maria? Please, Andy, I told you I did it, and I'm sorry. It was some friend of Zach's. I want to forget about this. Don't tell Bob. Tell me everything you know about Trina and Zach, and I promise not to tell Bob about this conversation. Okay, I'll trust you. You have no choice, but I keep my word. Trina found out that Zach works for the same agency. She started cheating with him. As far as I know, this was only during seminars. What did she say about him, and I will know if you are lying and our agreement will be void. She said she always loved him and made a mistake by marrying you. Sorry, Andy, but you said you wanted the truth. She couldn't wait for the seminars so she could be with him. They almost never went to meetings, but stayed in their room most of the time and only went out for dinner. What about my children, Maria? Tell me what you know. Oh God, Andy, I don't know what to say. She hoped that all 3 children were Zach's. This was her way of getting back at you. It didn't make sense. I never understood why she wanted you to raise Zach's children. So my kids are actually Zach's kids? I don't know. She always hoped they would be from Zach, but as far as I know, she doesn't really know. Let's not lie, Maria, Trina, and I will be getting a divorce, and I will test the children to find out who will support them. I will keep my promise and not tell Bob about this conversation. As for other matters, I won't lie to him. As a friend, I don't want to see you in my home anymore. I needed someone to talk to. I really wanted to talk to Mel, but I didn't think it would be wise. I had no idea how Trina would handle this situation. The last thing I wanted was to drag Mel into this chaos. I called my sister Jen and asked her to come. She sensed the urgency in my voice and said she would come right away. Jen and I discussed everything and the different possible scenarios. I was quite confused and didn't know what to do next. Now I understand why there is a temporary excuse for insanity. I would kill Zach and Trina if they walked through my door right now. Jen and I agreed that it would be worth calling Zach's wife. She deserves to know what kind of scoundrel she has for her husband. I looked at Zach's profile and his home number was there. I called, but the secretary answered. I asked to speak to Mrs. Sis Carter. After a pause, I was told to wait a minute. "Who is this?" asked the woman. "This is Andrew Connors from Ohio. Are you Mrs. Sis Carter?" "Yes, it's me, but I'm known as Senator Conroy. My husband's last name is Carter." "Well, Senator, your husband is sleeping with my wife at the hotel. I thought you should know about it." "Damn it, he said he wasn't dating that married woman anymore. Is her name Trina?" "Yes, this is Trina Connors from Ohio. His high school girlfriend will soon become my ex-wife." "Mr. Connors, thank you for letting me know about this. I can't talk now, but my people will contact you in the coming days." "I don't want to talk to your people. I will speak to you personally if you wish. I don't need anything from you. I just wanted you to know about your husband's infidelity." I hung up. Apparently, she knew about her husband's infidelity. I wondered if Trina was his only mistress. Well, now all I have to do is wait for Trina to come back and start the divorce proceedings. The most difficult thing will be to test the children to find out if I am their biological father. What if they are not mine? I raised each of them from day one. They were my family and my life. Around midnight, there was a knock on the door. I sat on the couch and thought about my problems. I tucked the 3 children in, hugged and kissed each of them, wondering if they were mine. Damn, I wanted a drink so bad, but after liver surgery, I couldn't drink alcohol for probably a year. I was stunned by the knock, and it happened again. I looked and saw a policeman. I opened the door. "I'm Officer Bates with the Sheriff's Department. Are you Andrew Connors, Trina Connors' husband?" asked the officer. "Yes, officer, it's me. What happened?" "I am sorry to report that your wife was killed in a car accident in rural Illinois. I was asked to inform you about this." I was shocked. A minute ago, I hated her and wanted to kill her, and now she's dead. I couldn't believe what I heard. I wanted to wake up, hoping it was a bad dream. But it was not a dream, and I did not sleep. "What happened, officer? Are you sure it's her? Maybe it's a mistake." I was just mumbling. "I'm sorry, Mr. Boris Connors, there is no mistake. It was a car accident, and both died. According to the report I received, their car went off the road, overturned, and crashed into a tree. Both passengers died on the spot." "You said both. Was Maria the second person in the car?" "No, sir. No, sir, it was Zach Carter. Did you know him?" I was stunned. I thought it was probably Trina and Maria coming home earlier, but that wasn't the case. This meant that she still spent the afternoon and evening with Zach, even after talking to me. I knew I had to answer the officer. "Yes, he worked in the company's Chicago office. I haven't seen him for many years." "What time did the accident happen?" about 7 o'clock in the evening, give or take a few minutes. It took us some time to collect information and contact you. Once again, Mr. Pease Connors, I'm sorry to have to break this news to you, but we wanted you to be one of the first to know. If you contact the Chicago Sheriff's Department tomorrow, they will be able to tell you more. Good night, sir. Thank you, officer, I said, closing the door. At that moment, I was stunned. I felt hatred, loss, love, disgust, and even fear. Fear of what to do next. I had 3 small children who were sleeping peacefully, and tomorrow I had to tell them that their mother had died. I couldn't sleep and didn't want to call anyone at that time. I knew that tomorrow would be one of the worst days of my life. I had to face reality. Trina is dead, and I have 3 children to look after that may not even be mine. I wouldn't wish anyone to be in this situation. I must have dozed off in the chair and was awakened by the bell at 7 in the morning. The display read, "Personal call." I answered. "Mr. Andrew Connors?" said the voice. "Yes, it's me. Who is calling?" "Just a second, sir," said the voice. Then I heard a woman's voice, the same one I heard yesterday. "Mr. Kins Connors, this is Senator Conroy. Janice Conroy. Under the circumstances, I would prefer to be called by my first name. I know that you have already been notified of the accident. I'm so sorry for your loss, but I need to talk to you. I need a big favor. Mrs. Prince Conroy, you also lost your husband. I understand that the situation is not good for both of us. What service do you need? Could you not mention the affair between my husband and your wife? I know it sounds bad, but it will ruin my political career. I can't change anything now, but it will ruin my life." "So you want me to lie and say it didn't happen?" "No, of course not. I just don't want you to tell reporters about your betrayal. You will receive several calls. I can take care of my side and settle things quietly, but I know someone will want to sensationalize this. It won't be good for either of us. Mrs. Goers Conroy, I will keep the affair a secret if you will do 2 things for me." "What would you like?" "I will do my best. I want a real report on the accident, the one that is hidden by high-ranking people. And I also need a sample of Zach's DNA. You know why. I'll do everything I can. I expect it soon after the funeral. Please don't think of me as a weakling. I want to know. No, I must know. The truth at any cost. I will give you everything you asked for. I just hope you keep your word and don't tell me about the cheating. I always keep my promises, Janice, always. Okay then, I'll get the reports to you as soon as possible, and thank you." I hung up and made myself some coffee. I knew it was early, but I called Jen and told her about the accident. This surprised her, but she said that she would come right away. My mom and dad always got up early, and I told them too. Now comes the more difficult part. I called Trina's parents. Her father answered, and I told him the sad news. I explained everything I could and said that Trina and Zach were just going out to dinner and Zach was driving her back to the hotel when the accident happened. They asked me to keep them informed, and I, of course, agreed. My kids woke up, and I made them breakfast. When Jen arrived, we all gathered in the living room and told the children the sad news. "Renee, Ashley, you need to be very brave. Mom died and won't come home." Tears just welled up in their eyes, and they started crying. Of course, when little Andy saw his sisters crying, he started crying too. It was the hardest thing to see my children cry. I hugged each of them and let them cry. I tried to be strong for them, but I cried too. I held the girls and Jen held Andy. We tried to answer all their questions. There was a knock on the door and Jen simply shouted, "Come in." It was Mel. "I'm so sorry to hear what happened." She and Andrea cried too. Ashley ran to Mel and sat on her lap as Mel sat down and began to gently rock my youngest daughter. Andrea sat down next to her mother. "How did you know?" I asked Mel. Jen responded, "I called her after you called. I hope you don't mind." Of course not. I was just surprised. After the children had calmed down a bit, Andrea offered to take them to their rooms and play games with them. This was a lifesaver because the phone started ringing right after they went to their rooms. These were journalists and reporters. They all said the same thing. We just have a few questions. I would get angry and just hang up. Jen said she would handle the calls. She responded to the next reporter. Look, I don't understand why all you journalists keep bothering us. My brother just lost his wife. He has 3 small children, and we are not celebrities. We need privacy. I don't care that Zach Carter was married to a politician in another state. This has nothing to do with us. Why don't you bother her if it's so important to you? We turned on the news, and the report said, a local woman died in Chicago last night. She was with the husband of State Senator Janice Conroy. Conroy, said the woman, Trina Connors of Ohio, was a colleague of Zach Carter, and they were just returning from dinner. She had spoken to her husband earlier that evening and said she would not be able to join them. She was very saddened by the loss of her husband and expressed her condolences to Mr. Kaz Connors and his family in Ohio. We will provide more details as they become available. Now it is clear why we are called. I think we should prepare a story for these pesky reporters and repeat the same thing until they leave us alone. I'll take the next call, Jen, I said. Hello? Yes, this is Andrew Connors. Look, I don't understand all these calls. I'll tell you what I know. Zach Carter and my wife Trina worked for the same travel agency, but in different states. They periodically met and discussed travel opportunities. All they did was go to dinner and were returning to her hotel when the accident happened. The man continued to ask questions. Yes, I talked to my wife that morning and knew they were going to dinner. They had been friends since school. I knew Zach personally. We all studied at the same school. It was a terrible accident and we will miss it. I encourage you, if you have any further questions, to contact your senator. I hung up. Jen and I took turns answering those stupid dings since they're about the same size. If looks could kill, dear Mel would have killed me on the spot. Jen started laughing. You are a stupid, stupid man. You want to give your dead wife's clothes to your ex-girlfriend. I don't think so, little brother. She said they were beautiful. I was just trying to be nice and let her take what she liked. Women, I will never understand them. What should we do with them? Jen looked at Mel as if I wasn't there. Let's have a garage sale and sell all the clothes. They should bring in some good money. So that was the next thing they were going to take on. The phone rang, and I heard a familiar voice on the other end. After I hung up, I asked the women to take their children and go with them to the park or somewhere else for a couple of hours. I told them that a person would come to me with whom we needed to talk privately. I promised to explain everything later. After they left, there was a knock on the door. It was Senator Janice Conroy and her driver. Please come in. I was waiting for you. Her driver remained sitting on the porch while she went inside. I was surprised by her appearance. She was a very pretty woman, but she was probably over 50. I didn't know she was so much older than Zach, because Zach was our age. Mr. Carter Connors, I was in Columbus, Ohio on state business, and decided to make this short trip to give you the information you requested. She handed me an envelope, telling me it contained an unofficial accident report as well as Zach's DNA profile. Would you like a cup of coffee, Mrs. Conroy? Please, for today, just call me Janice, and a cup of coffee would be nice. Just a little cream, please. I want to thank you for not disclosing the betrayal. It would not do any good if the truth were known. I got a call from the insurance company, and they asked me to talk to you about a possible settlement. Janice, I don't need your money. I just want this to end so my family and I can move on with our lives. Andy, dozens of lawyers will call you, promising millions of dollars if you contact their firms. The truth is that the case could remain open for years as they dig deeper and deeper. The insurance company doesn't want this to happen, and neither do I. They made you an offer. If you accept it, the case will be closed. No one will bother you anymore since the matter will be settled. What kind of proposal is this? Is this your money? Like I said, I just want it to be over. It's the insurance company's money. They will offer you $100,000 for each of your children and put it into trust accounts. Payments will be available once the children reach 18 years of age, and you will be the custodian of those accounts. Children will receive money only with your permission until they are 25 years old. After that, they will manage their accounts independently. Why are they offering this money? Was there some kind of violation? No, it's just that everyone is obsessed with lawsuits now. Filing a lawsuit is easier than finding a job. That just closes the case. They will also pay for all medical expenses from the time of the accident. You know, hospital bills, ambulances, and any other expenses. So you get $300,000 plus medical fees. It's $400,000 plus medical ones. I have 4 children, not 3. My other daughter lives with her mother, but if I accept this offer, she should also get a share. Sorry, I didn't know about this. I will make sure you get enough for all 4 children. If we're done, I'd like to. Janice, this is probably the last time I will see you. Can you tell me about you and Zach and why you let this continue after you found out? I think yes, you deserve to know. I met Zach when he was in college. He was a rude and harsh guy. I was asked to teach political science and we became friends. As you can see, I'm 25 years older than Zach. At first it was fun to be with a young man and teach him the wisdom of love. You've heard of trophy wives. So, Zach was my trophy husband. I had a handsome guy at all my parties. At first, Zach loved being the center of attention, but when he realized that it was not about him, but about me, he began to get nervous. He asked me to buy him a travel agency. I bought it and own it. He controlled it. He took courses in the tourism industry because he needed to learn something. In fact, he was coping, but he couldn't stop himself from cheating. Why didn't he divorce you and go about his own business? Money and power. I had both, he had neither. I gave him everything he wanted, within reason. There was nothing to his name, not even the car he crashed. If he left me at any time, he would have nothing. People get used to this kind of life. He met your wife at a conference about 7 years ago. A few years later, I found out about them and gave him an ultimatum. Either he stops his games, especially with a married woman, or I will ensure that he will never be able to do this again. It seemed like he had stopped, or at least hid it well, until I heard from you. Just so you know, he had other lovers. Most could either be bought or intimidated. I didn't know how to approach your wife, since he only saw her once every few years. What will the report say? I feel like there was something unclean. The unofficial report was that Zach's weapon had been bitten off. He was receiving the catch at the time of the accident. Your wife didn't have any panties. I hushed it all up and wanted it to stay that way. The witness said the black SUV pushed against the rear quarter panel of Zach's vehicle, causing him to spin and lose control. The car fell down an embankment, flipped several times, and came to a stop when it hit a tree. The official report states that the witness was well behind other vehicles and was unsure whether the SUV was struck or not. Janice, are you involved in their murder? I personally don't. There are powers above me, and I can't speak for them, and I really don't want to know. I really loved Zach in my own way. In a way, he was my pleasure boy, and it was fun to have him around. Well, Andrew Connors, this is probably the last time we speak. In the report you have, names have been removed so that if there is a leak, we will be protected. Again, I apologize for your loss and will send the insurance papers tomorrow. Thanks for your understanding. After Janice left, I opened the envelope and the report was exactly as she said. Trina really was a whore for Zach. Now I knew from whom she learned various methods of lovemaking and who she was thinking about at that moment. It wasn't me. Another report contained complete information on Zach's DNA. Janice truly kept her promise. I still wondered if she was involved in the accident. Perhaps it's better for me never to find out. When everyone returned, I told the girls who my visitor was. They were surprised to find out who it was. I explained our agreement and that the senator had done her part. The girls asked to read the report. Are you sure you want to read this? I know you're a woman and curious, but this is a pretty serious thing. You won't like what you read." Mel looked at me. "Andy, because I care about you, I'll forget about you calling us nosy. You can't go through life alone. You need to share this with someone so you can discuss it if necessary." She smiled sweetly at me after that. They were upset after reading the report. Like me, they hoped that maybe Trina felt some remorse after talking to me that morning. I told them some of the things that Janice Conroy had shared with me. My sister Jen said, "I know it's terrible to say, but maybe Trina's death was a blessing. How much worse it could have gotten if this had continued with children in the middle of it all." I knew she was right, only she said it out loud. That's how Jen was. She wasn't afraid to speak her mind. After she left, I sat at the table, reading the report again and looking at Zach's DNA report. Mel sat down at the table next to me. "What are you going to do about it?" She pointed to Zach's DNA report. "I have an appointment at the clinic tomorrow to check on the kids and see if Zach is their biological father." "Don't do this, Andy. For your sake and for the sake of your children, don't do this." "I need to know, Mel. I need to know." "Why? Why is this so important now? Zach is dead, Trina is dead, and nothing good can come of this. What if you are not the biological father? What are you going to do? Will you give up your children, send them to an orphanage? Will you raise them with hatred in your heart? Please, Andy, listen to me. You are their father. You have been with them since each of their first days. You attended their birth, changed their dirty diapers, but most importantly, you were always there. You are the one they call Daddy, no one else. Don't plant these thoughts in their heads and hearts. Please promise me you'll think about it, Andy. Think about your children." "Okay, I'll think about it tonight. If we go, I'll come see you tomorrow after we finish." Mel kissed me lightly on the lips. It was so nice. She called Andrea and they went home. I kept my promise and gave it serious thought. It was already close to lunch the next day when I pulled up to Mel's house. The children jumped out and ran towards her. Andrea was at school, but Mel told them they could play in her room. Renee was supposed to be at school, but I had already let her go a day early. "You did it, didn't you?" said Mel. "Sorry, but I promised the children," I replied. "What? Did you do this for the children? What are you talking about?" "I promised the kids I'd take them to McDonald's for lunch, and I'm keeping my promises." She smiled. "You didn't go for it. You know what I mean, not lunch." "No, I thought about what you said. They are my children and always will be. I want it to stay that way. So what now?" I was sitting on Thivan, and Mel came and sat on my lap. This is the closest we've been since the funeral, other than the occasional kiss. It was so nice to be around her. She was a wonderful woman. "You mourn for a while, and we start dating, and then you ask me to marry you, and I say yes, and we live happily ever after, just like in a storybook." She had the most beautiful smile on her face. I smiled too. "What if I don't want to marry you? What then? Then I'll just live with you. I already lost you once. It won't happen again. Besides, I heard the children talking. They like me, you know, and I love them." "What about sex? Are you all right?" I started laughing. "Darling, with you it will be more than just sex. It will be love, and it will be great." Mel was laughing too now. Around the same time, Andrea came home from school. She saw Mel sitting on my lap and started smiling. Andrea shouted to the other children, "Renee, Ashley, Andy, come here quickly. There's something you need to see." Chalk stayed where he was. She didn't move an inch. The guys arrived. Andy, of course, was the last. They smiled at Mel. Ashley spoke first. "Does this mean that you will be our mother after our mother dies?" Mel got off my lap with tears in her eyes, walked over, knelt in front of Ashley and hugged her. "Darling, I will gladly be your mother. Your other mother will always be with you in your heart, and I will be here to take care of you." Andy wanted a hug too, so he walked over and Mel hugged the little guy. Renee came up to me. "Dad, when will you get married and where will we live?" "Well, honey, first I want to make sure you kids want us to get married." "Of course, Daddy. What a stupid question. We already love Mel and Andrea's dad. We just want to know where we're going to live. Honey, I haven't even asked Mel for marriage yet. Well, do it, Daddy. Do it right now. All the kids started shouting, "Do it, Daddy," even little Andy. I laughed and Mel almost cried. I walked over to her and took her hand as she stood up. I knelt down in front of her and said, "Mel, the kids and I love you. Will you be their mother and my wife? I need to buy you a ring to make this official. I didn't really plan it today, but I can't think of a better time with better witnesses." Before I could finish, the children began to say, "Answer him, Mommy, answer him." It's funny that even before she answered, the children started calling her Mom. How long will I have to think about these children? It's a big step after all, Mal replied with a smile on her face. "Just a minute, Mom," Andrea replied. "We both know you've wanted this your whole life." Oops, there's another secret. Andrea looked at me and smiled. Mal tried to look serious, but he didn't do a good job. After careful consideration, I decided to say, "Yes, I will marry you, Andrew Connors." The kids jumped up and down and said, "Kiss her, Daddy, kiss her, and make the deal." I did just that, and it was so good. "Kids, so you know it will be a while before we get married. We have a lot of things to do first, but we'll see each other almost every day," Mal replied. She did not want to explain to the children how to wait after death. She told them they could call her Mom if they wanted. After the kids returned to Andrea's room to play, I looked at Mel smiling. "Everything went well," she laughed. "If we're going to date, are we going to have sex? If so, can we do this on the first date?" I asked. "For you, my love, any time. We don't even have to make a date." Having said this, she went to the phone and called my sister Jen. "What was all that about?" I asked. "Jen is coming over to take the kids to the movies. They wanted to see the children's movie Happy Feet, and Jen took them. Darling, I have a question for you. Will you and I stay here and make the deal we made earlier?" Before I could say anything, she called the children back into the room. "The kids, Aunt Jen and Uncle Ralph, are coming to take you all to Happy Feet." The children all started jumping up and down. "Dad and I have some things to do, but we'll be here when you get back. Be good to Aunt Jen and Uncle Ralph. Can you hear me?" "Yes, Mom, we can all hear you," answered a smiling Andrea. Jen and Ralph showed up a few minutes later. Ashley ran up to them as soon as they walked through the door. "Mom and Dad are getting married, and you can come to the wedding, but we don't know when it will be yet." Jen looked at us. "Kind of unexpected, isn't it, guys?" She smiled, which meant she gave her approval. Renee said, "Yes, Dad proposed in front of all of us. It was great. They kissed, and that was it to seal the deal." "All?" replied a smiling Ralph before Jen nudged him. "Well, congratulations," Jen said. "We better go to the movies with the kids so you can finish your unfinished business. We'll stop and get some pizza on the way home, so you'll have about 3 hours. I hope you can finish your business by then." "Why are you laughing, Uncle Ralph?" Ashley asked. "I was just thinking about the dancing penguin we'll see. It should be a good film." After they left, I played dumb and asked, "What unfinished business do we need to do?" Mel pulled me into her bedroom. "I have waited over 11 years to hold you again. Please make love to me, but don't forget that we are on a 3-hour schedule." "Honey, I'll only need 3 minutes for the first round." We both started laughing as we took off our clothes. We survived the Christmas holidays. We spent a lot of time together. We were a family, just not married yet and still living in our own houses. We tried to wait as long as possible, but the children wanted us to get married as soon as possible. After the holidays, the kids got together and asked if they could have a big birthday party for Valentine's Day. Angie smiled. We've been calling her Angie since the kids did. We asked them how they managed to get Angie out of Andrea, and they said they already had Andy, their little brother. So they chose Angie. Andrea didn't care, and we didn't care. Dad, 3 other kids have birthdays the week of Valentine's Day. For me, of course, it's in March, but that's normal. We want to get you and Mom married, so we decided to throw a big birthday wedding combination for all of us. Since you and Mom don't need wedding gifts, guests can bring gifts for Renee, Ash, and Andy, as well as for me if they don't mind me receiving them a month early. What do you think? Am I just a talker? For the group, all of us kids thought it would be a great idea. Mel and I couldn't stop laughing. All these kids get together and make plans for us. We believed Angie, and besides, all the other children were next to her and were waiting for our answer. The problem we faced was what to do about it without hurting their feelings. Angie, I know you and the others have been thinking a lot about this planned party. I think we should see what your mom has to say about this. I had no idea what to tell the kids. Just looking at their faces and expressions of hope was so sweet. I had to shift the responsibility to Mel. Mel looked at me and then back at the kids' faces. She knew I dropped it in her lap. I tried not to look at her while she searched for an answer. Mel spoke up. I'm a little surprised by your proposal, kids. Hosting a big birthday party is one thing. The fact that your dad and I are getting married is also good, but expecting people to come to the party and bring you all gifts is not right. I thought we taught you to put others first. I'm a little ashamed of you for using our wedding to get gifts for yourself. The children lowered their heads. It seemed like Mel had told them the right words. Renee said, Mom, if we give up gifts, can we have a birthday party and still have you and Dad get married? Mel looked at me for support. I tried to keep a serious expression on my face. Kids, since your dad is leaving this decision to me, I will agree to the birthday party. Then she looked at me. I will also agree to the wedding. We'll make this a family event. But we will not ask guests to bring you gifts. I was completely stunned. I honestly didn't think she would agree to a family event. Mel was full of surprises. The children jumped for joy. They hugged Mel and then came and hugged me. We had a month and a half to organize all this. I returned to work and most of the planning fell on Mel's shoulders. Of course, Jen was there to help her. They became best friends. They were closer than most sisters. The girls rented a hall at the church, and since Mel was a member of her church, she had no problem getting the hall and pastor for the weekend surrounding Valentine's Day. Our color scheme was red and white and lots of hearts. The women from the church again offered to cook dinner. We told them we wanted to pay for all the food and, of course, the cake. It was a small wedding. Jen was the maid of honor, and her husband Ralph was my best man. We had 2 young assistants, a flower girl, and a ring bearer. You can guess who it was. I was in a nice suit, and Mel looked like an angel in a blue dress. When the music started, tears ran down my cheeks. My son walked first, clumsily carrying a cushion with a ring. Following him was my daughter Andrea, wearing a blue dress the same color as Mel's. Renee walked behind her, also in a blue dress. Next came Ashley as the flower girl. The wedding marching music started and Mel was led down the aisle by her father. When she saw the tears in my eyes, I saw that she had the same emotions. I don't know why, but I was very nervous. I married the love of my life after years of a turbulent relationship with my first wife. When the priest said that I could kiss the bride and I heard applause, I realized that the church was full of people. When I looked out at the crowd, I saw so many old friends and family members. Until that moment, I was completely focused on Mel. When we went down to the hall, there was a large banner that said, "Congratulations to the Connors family on their recent marriage." The second banner read, "Happy birthday to Renee, Ashley, and Andy Juor, and happy birthday to Andrea, whose birthday isn't until March." When the children saw the banners, they were so happy. There was also a stack of birthday cards for each of them. We made it known when we sent out the invitations that this would be a joint birthday and wedding celebration. It was the best Valentine's Day anyone could ask for. For our honeymoon, we decided to wait until June when the kids were on vacation and take them all to Disneyland. We got adjoining rooms and the kids shared 2 double beds, and we had a king-size bed for ourselves. During the day, we played with the children, and at night we closed the door and made love. The children could not understand why we were so tired every morning. When we got home, Jen came in and said she was expecting her first child. We were so happy for her and Ralph. We knew they had been trying for a long time and were glad they succeeded. They had a son. Now Andy will have a little buddy to follow him around in the coming years. We decided to sell my house and all move into Mel's house. Both houses were larger and older, but well maintained. It was better to get rid of the things Trina bought. We held an auction and sold most of the furniture and, of course, the house. The children were happy to receive new sets of furniture for their rooms. The insurance checks arrived, and we put the children's money into separate accounts for their future. That was the last time we heard about the accident. We read that Senator Conroy was re-elected by a landslide. Apparently, there were many voices of sympathy. This goes to show that life can throw you a lot of curvy balls, but sometimes if you hit it right, you'll hit a home run. It was the same with us. I never tested the kids, but I kept Zach's DNA information in a safe. Maybe when I'm older, I'll pluck up the courage and do comparison tests. Now all I need is for one of my children to come running and hug me tightly and call me dad to understand that I made the right decision.